Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's been, I don't know, probably a month since I've seen all of your beautiful faces, or since you've seen our faces, because I don't get to see you guys. Today is a very special episode. Today, we are declaring war against the vegans. And I can't think of any better way to do that than to crack open some beef jerky. Let's do this.
Oh, you guys have halal beef jerky? I mean, we have it too, but not a lot of.
Yeah.
There's only so many brands.
I'm just going to eat one right in front of all the vegans just to show them where I stand.
And the vegetarians too.
What's up, Hatem?
I'm good. How are you? You've been unavailable.
Yes.
Well, if we want to just get straight into the war on meat, I remember watching a documentary, and they're talking about how, and this is kind of unrelated to it, but it is, but it's just a funny thing on. They're talking about the war on terrorism. They're like every time America declares something, there always seems to be more of it. They declare war on terrorism, there's more terrorism. War on poverty, there's more poverty. Like there's always more of it. I mean,
War
for
on
me,
drugs.
everyone always eats meat. War on drugs, more drugs. It's very weird. The guy was like in the video. They should say, the America should declare war on like hot girls or something, and they'll get more of those too somehow. But I'll say one
Much.
thing that the war on meat. It's not a literal thing, obviously, but it's definitely there. In my personal experience, I feel like nowadays climate change, health issues, it's all blamed on meat, meat consumption. Every single time they're like, "Oh, eating the meat is unhealthy," and I just think that's not true. Online, I don't know if you've ever seen this too. Some people will make claims like, "Oh, red meat digests after like 3 days," which is also not true. It digests in like 3 hours, just like regular food. It stays in your system. But digestion and staying in your system is very different. Is a different thing. Now, I just wanted to get at least some of your thoughts on this war on meat. And you live in Dubai, so it's a very different situation compared to the U.S. So I'm interested in hearing that as well.
There's no war on meat here. Everyone loves meat. We just eat whatever we want, wherever we want. Mostly because it's halal and we're Muslims, so I don't really care to see this beef jerky actually. It's super expensive in Dubai, but it is halal when you buy it from the UK, funny enough. So if you ever want to get beef jerky, just ship it from the UK, bro. Uh, Other than that, my thoughts on the war of meat. Uh, I saw this documentary on Netflix, Cowspiracy, where they went totally in on why the meat industry is bad and how they've given examples of some old senile women who went on veganism and apparently changed their life and they found God. So uh, I think I'm with you, Hatem. This might be a very biased debate because it's not a debate at all. We're just going to rant on how.
Yeah, we're just gonna rant on. We both like eating meat, and we're not. It's not really a debate. It's more of our perspective. But it's not like we're trying to say, and this is another misconception that a lot of people get. It's not like we're saying you should eat meat every single meal and 24/7. You should be always eating meat. That's not what I'm saying
You
either.
should, though. You should. 100%.
At least two meals. At least two meals.
Lunch and dinner. Breakfast, you can
Maybe
skip on the
breakfast too.
bacon.
You give eggs.
Turkey bacon. How about that? Halal turkey bacon.
But the Cowspiracy one is a very good one. I mean, when I did the research, I didn't watch it completely, but Zainab actually did, and I was like hounding her down and talking about all the things that were wrong with it. Like I was completely annoying her about it. And I'll say that in that thing, they even say that a lot of things that they're saying were kind of biased, and the guy's biased too because he also made the other one. I don't know if you've seen that one about um, exercise and like plant protein instead of taking animal protein. Yeah, I forgot what it was called. It was on Netflix too. I forgot. It was like I don't know what it was called. Game Changers. Game Changers. The Game Changers documentary. And they did the same thing about talking about plant protein versus animal protein. But before we get into any of the facts of why this war on meat is crazy, you have any other additional thoughts?
Just to uh, give a reference point, Hatem sent me a YouTube video. I'll link it in the description, and that's how we got all these ideas and facts from. It's a YouTube video that basically debunks how the meat industry is poor for the environment, and that's a very insightful video on exactly that. And there are so many facts based on actual statistics that make sense in the video, and why eating meat is not as bad as you think. So that's just what we're going to be going off of, just for your information.
Yeah, and just to also clarify, like in that video, if any of any viewers actually watch that video, the guy does have his own cited facts as well, and the reason his point is that just stop eating meat doesn't necessarily solve things, and it can also lead to other issues as well. So it is something to think about. Um, yeah, we love meat, so if you don't mind, I'm just gonna mention some other facts that are clear that you can easily people can look up.
Go ahead.
Like even with eating meat, one thing that we know about one argument that's prevalent is that the human mind has our brains have developed more based on eating meat, and some people are already eating grains. Now, eating meat is shown. Some people say, I don't want to say archaeologists, but I forgot the technical, but scientists do believe that meat was a contributing factor to human development. Another thing to add on to that is that what's special about meat is that unlike other foods, like a cow can metabolize certain things better than we can, plants. So when we eat their meat, we're already getting kind of worked proteins that are better for us to digest. They have a slice of beef has most of the nutritions that you need in a day than just eating a carrot, and that it makes a big difference. It's like kind of having ready made for you to be eating in the meat because it's a little bit more.
So, so that's what you just reminded me that the veganism industry has now accelerated the growth of the supplement pills industry, right? Because if you're completely vegan, you're not getting all the nutrients they say you are, but some of the nutrients that you get from meat, you're not getting from the vegan sources, which is then pushing people to buy random pills from Australia or whatever the fuck about like vitamin C and D and all this other crap. So you're right with the fact that if you have a slice of beef, chicken, turkey, whatever, it's work protein that can directly benefit you with some of the nutrients that you're missing in other parts of your diet. Now, I'm not saying that eating fried chicken, how the normal American diet is going to benefit you. We're talking about lean meat sources, healthy, not too much fried, like those kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is like even with meat, like animal fats also get a big, get a lot of hate, and obviously humankind has used animal fats for a long time. Um, and I just want to add, like how you're saying, talk about like we're talking about eating the meat itself. It's a ready package for you to get that nutrient, as I've already mentioned. But there's one other thing that I did want to get on that's not really coming into my head right now. Um, I'm trying to think, but I'll get back to it when it comes back into my head. I actually don't remember right now, but there's a lot to unpack.
One, now you asked me before my experiences in Dubai versus the US. One thing that hasn't exploded as much as it did in the US over here is the Impossible Burger or Impossible Meat, and no one really cares here. Like honestly, people are just happy with their beef burgers and chicken, fried chicken, and everything. So there's not much of a craze for veganism over here as it is in the US, and that's something that's worth mentioning as well. Like the Impossible Beef Burger as well has gone insane over the last decade, and it's not that healthy of a replacement either. It's still
Yeah,
manufactured.
yeah.
It's still
It's
processed
still the
food at
same
the end of the
thing.
day. Like I thought veganism stands for fresh nutrients. I think all these impossible uh, meats are just highly processed food that's going to give you almost the same taste as a beef burger. So if you're going to go that far to, s- satisfy your taste buds, might as well just eat the actual thing, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is with the Impossible Burger is that I'm more concerned because it's a completely processed food that it might not be healthy for you long term because again it's not natural compared to eating meat like straight up. Obviously I know there's some processes that can go on with meat and I'm not saying that most industries what they use, but in general, in a very general aspect, taking a slice of actual real meat is very different from getting an Impossible Burger. I'm concerned myself to think that it's a completely processed food. It's all lab made, and it's not. You can't call it organic, and you can't call it an. It's processed
Well,
from other
uh,
plants.
devil's advocate here. They would say that all the meat you have nowadays is processed as well, stuffed with random steroids and all this crap to make the chicken meat, for example, grow much faster than it should. So one could argue that the meat we're getting nowadays is not completely organic or fresh either.
Right. So I mean, even along with that, my only thing would be that it really does depend on where you're getting it from. Like if you're gonna go get a McDonald's burger, there might be other. They're gonna have additives, like a chicken burger or a beef burger, or whatever. They're probably additives, but in general, like you can still get at least like if I go and many farms you can go there, you can get a goat slaughtered or a cow slaughtered, um, even for us halal or not, either way, like you're still gonna get you're gonna get that beef, you're gonna get fresh beef, and there is still a market of wanting organically fed organic meat and non GMO meats, which are advertised as well, and it's become a market in itself.
There's a lot to unpack within that video itself because there was a very interesting part of the video as well, which I remembered, is the whole ecosystem that the Earth goes through, and in particular, a lot of vegans argue that we waste a lot of land on cattle raising all these meats,
Yeah,
which the video does bring up that most of the land on Earth is anyway waste. I don't know
yeah.
what the exact statistic was, but like
He said
most of it
forty
is
eight
waste.
percent 48%. So yeah, he said 48% is marginal land. Only livestock can actually make use of the land. So I made this note while watching it. He does make that point. So that's a very big thing, I think, because it shows like if we, people think that we're wasting the land on it and we could just keep growing plants, but that's not necessarily true because just because you have more space doesn't mean you can grow anything. And honestly, I feel like there's many people who probably just don't have that knowledge in agriculture to even or be a farmer and stuff to understand where certain foods can grow because it is much more timely to grow these plants than actually just feed the cow the grass.
Another thing I just remember from that as well is the video mentions that um, after you grow the certain vegetables, there's like the waste that comes from growing the vegetable. Like for example, when you grow corn, the husk, the stem, that's all left behind, and
Yeah,
cows actually eat that. So if you reduce the amount of cattle that's grown and grazed, and you increase vegetable production, the amount of waste just increases, and that just adds on more to the o- overall trash that we're seeing in the world. So,
yeah.
and
I
cows
mean,
are
speaking of,
and
sorry,
like
you
cows
can
are
go.
also used to like eat some of the waste that we produce as humans.
Yeah.
We waste so much food. Me and Hatim try our best to not waste as much food, but the population in general throws away a lot of food, and a lot of vegetables can actually be fed as actual food for these, not just cows but any livestock.
Yeah, yeah, and that's exactly what I wanted to get at. Actually, your point about food waste. So I find it very interesting how narratives work. Like we want to fit the narrative that people should stop eating meat to solve certain problems, like hunger. Oh, if we have more plants, we can feed more people. However, you already have 40% of U.S. food is not eaten; it's waste, and it's mostly plants and vegetables and fruits, more of
Yeah, the
that nature
non-tasty
as opposed
food.
to meat. The non-tasty food, yeah, or the supplemental food to enhance the meat flavor. That that in itself is actually wasted more. One third of food is wasted. One third, 40% in the U.S. And I think one third, I believe, is the global, and 40% of U.S. food. That's a lot of food. So if we just stop wasting food, that might actually make a big difference in itself. Like sharing food with your neighbors, whatever you can do, that will actually solve some people's hunger.
I think they need to watch the video to get a full understanding of. This is just like a
I
teaser to the
mean,
video. Like, it's very in
see,
depth.
the thing is, what I like about that guy's videos, I've seen some of his other videos. I don't sense a necessary like bias in the video that he's trying to put forward a agenda, like for example how Cowspiracy is or Game Changer. Like he's not saying, oh, everyone should stuff their faces with meat all the time. That's not what he's saying, but there are practical realities to understanding something. He makes a big one is about water, right? A lot of people talk about you need so much water to produce one hamburger or whatever. Like I
Yeah.
forgot how much they said, like 40 gallons or whatever. But he makes a good point that 94% is green water. It's literally already the water in the grass that they're taking in. So it really makes no difference to human beings. But on the contrary, like almonds use more water. Almonds and avocados, those use a lot of water. And there's a lot of stuff that's grown in California, and California has a drought. So you really have to think about those things, that these plants actually do need a lot of water. Almonds, avocados, which is very popular nowadays.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up, but you brought up as well. I think one almond takes like a gallon to produce. So if you just take a like look at the ratio, that's just insane.
Yeah, and you can't compare that. So, like again, I mentioned green water. For anyone who doesn't know, that's talking about the water. So, also in the video, we should mention too that he does have an expert who actually works with companies to make them more green friendly, and he's a scientist. So, he mentions that thing is with green water is green water is literally the rainwater that comes down and then goes back up and comes down again. It's not additional water. But on the contrary, for almonds and avocados, you need to actually fill water and actually, use it to fill them. Maybe some of it's green water, maybe I'm sure, because obviously it rains, but it really does depend. They're not like cows that they're gonna be eating grass. They are the grass.
I think we can go on this topic forever, honestly. But
I mean, one thing I was wanted to mention too, and you know how passionate I am about this topic, but one thing I do want to mention is, you talk about vegans, right? So there's one, I feel like from my perspective, and anyone in the comments can disagree. One camp of vegans is the, oh, health and nutrition, like, oh, it's better to just eat plant foods. The other camp is, oh, it's environmentally damaging. So we're kind of getting on the environmentally damaging points, and I'm just looking at my notes that um, they mentioned about methane in the video, and he mentions that methane is only 10% of like the pollution compared to carbon. The biggest thing is actually carbon in the air, and most cows are using the same carbon already in the air. And U.S. has been fairly consistent with the amount of cows. And if, again, here's a big one: fossil fuels are much more. We're talking about meat, which is globally, even the people who talk about it being bad, only mention 3% of global warming and climate change. Yet you're ignoring the fact that like 60% or something is gas and other fossil fuels.
this could be a conspiracy that the fossil fuel industry is trying to just blame something else while they carry on with their dirty practices.
I mean,
That could
it's
be another
that.
topic today.
Yeah, I mean that's not a bad theory, honestly, because again, you always want to shift the blame, and additionally, there's other situations in the past where they try to blame something as being bad for you when it's actually not. Like for example, cigarettes were said to be good for you back in the day, good
Yeah.
for you back in the day, but it's or like sugar being not that harmful. Like there's certain things that people don't really that these big companies are trying to lobby and make it seem like it's not as bad. But I would say also these environmental friendly organizations also want you to make their companies grow. and make it better. So there's clearly that incentive to actually put these narratives out for these vegan companies.
I think that's the perfect place to end the video. I feel like we're gonna go on forever, and I want there to be a part two for this. This is a super interesting topic, and I don't want to let it go on forever. Right?
Yeah, we can go part two. There's still more things, and we can just talk about the. We talked about a lot about the environmental aspect, but we can also get into some, a little bit more nutrition as well. And I can put my own take of my perspective as an average person of how I see the issues, and
I
you too, of
I'm
course.
I look into nutrition a lot, so I'll be looking forward to that part two of this episode. But
Yeah, we could do part two.
definitely, nice to see you again, Hatim. Nice to. I hope it's nice for the viewers to see us again. Uh, have a good night, guys. Peace.